and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Welcome to our show. So glad to have all of you here with us. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to share. I'm joined here today with my colleague, Daniel Lupker. And to everyone that's joining us or just finding out, no, we are not, just going to be doing the show like this. We are still in the building process of making our studio happen. Our radio room is basically set and ready to go. We just got to add in the wonderful attributes to make it happening. We are also in the waiting game for our internet to be set up because Comcast wanted to be a bunch of douchebags. So we went somewhere else and we got something that's going to be happening. But we do ask all of you to please just give us some more time as we are in the process of trying to get things set up correctly. And we want to give you guys a professional show when everything's all set and ready to go. And if you do want to help us out, in the description box below, please consider being a Patreon supporter. We're going to be making a lot of new changes, a lot of new updates. And we want you guys to help contribute to this community center. And it's not only just going to help us out, but it's going to be a community center as well for anyone in the city of Chicago that wants to do a YouTube show, radio program, recording, whatever. And if you help us out, you're helping contributing something that has been seen in the city of Chicago in such a long time. But now let's get started with our final story, and that is, oh my goodness, Gulf drilling condemned as hundreds of hurricane-related spills are investigated. Gee, I didn't know this would happen. So this is an article from Common Dreams, and, once again.
Common dreams and uncommon realities.
Yes, exactly. The fossil fuels industry role in environmental destruction is under renewed fire this week after the U.S. Coast Guard announced reports of nearly 350 oil spills. That's right, 350 oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. We talked about this on the show just before we moved to our new studio. So 350 spills, the Louisiana Bucket Brigade tweeted Tuesday. This is a petrochemicals industry's responsibility, so it should foot the bill for a total cleanup, not the taxpayer. No American taxpayer should be doing that at all. Ida made landfall on August 29th as a Category 4 storm and brought catastrophic devastation to Louisiana. Louisiana is still without power, by the way, where over 400,000 homes and businesses are still without power. The storm wreaked havoc in the other states along its path, as well as including New Jersey and New York, which faced deadly flooding. If anyone saw the videos of what happened to the New York subway, this is going to become the new normal. And I'm so sorry to be the person to say this, but again, the fossil fuel industry should be paying for this because they knew what would happen. They knew about this in the 60s and 70s, and our politicians let them get away with it too because they're just as corrupt. The storm also impacted. What's up?
Can I say real quick that I'm going to quote? If you haven't played BioShock, it's a great game. I'm going to quote a quote from there. Once Rapture starts leaking, it ain't stopping.
Yeah, that's exactly it. BioShock, right? The storm also impacted Gulf Coast oil. The Gulf Coast oil and gas industry, with about 88% of the region's offshore oil production shuttered and over 100 offshore oil production platforms still without crews. The Coast Guard crews are flying over the area looking for potential spills. Advocacy group Environment America noted in a press statement last week that oil spills over the past couple of decades have been unfortunate byproducts of building large oil rigs in hurricane-prone areas, especially as climate change increasingly fuels more powerful hurricanes. I remember talking with this when Lainey Peterson and Daniel and I were part of when Heartlands Media was still on radio, and we talked about the ever-growing threat of these hurricanes and how climate change is going to make these hurricanes even deadlier, more dangerous. I remember even a long time ago reading reports about how scientists are theorizing or trying to come up with enough data to identify what could potentially be a Category 6, a larger version than a Category 5. I mean, I don't even know what that looks like, but these storms
like a Category 6.
Yeah, but again, these storms are going to become more dangerous. There's going to be more droughts, and the thing is, when these storms hit these oil rigs are going to be devastated. There's going to be more spills. And again, speaking of spills, how can we forget about the Line 5 pipeline that's underneath Lake Michigan or the Line 3 pipeline as well? So the possibility of such impacts after Ida was given weight last week with aerial imagery from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, the Associated Press showing what appeared to be a mile-long slick near an offshore rig, though the leak now appears to be no longer active, but further cause of concern remains. So I think I just want to just end this article here by just acknowledging this one thing for everyone. We're going to be seeing more of this. These storms are going to be the new normal. these super hurricanes, these devastations of tropical storms that are going to impact a lot of communities, a lot of cities. And the sad fact is, if nothing does change, a fatigue will set in to where, I don't know, do we look at cities and towns being abandoned because it's no longer cost effective to rebuild them up? Is that a future that we're looking at? And remember, so long as the fossil fuel industry is able to buy off our politicians, this thing that we're dealing with, this corruption and this blind eye to climate change, will still impact future generations. We can no longer afford to screw around with this. And we cannot rely on these old politicians that seem to be living in a country that's been long gone for decades. We need real leadership. And yes, we need new politicians, new elected leaders, but not ones that will kowtow to the current establishment leadership. I'm talking about AOC and Cori Bush and all the other squad members, those 15 congressmen and women who are on the Force the Vote petition. You have the power to unite as a voting bloc and actually do some things. You could be just as powerful as Sinema or Manchin if you choose to. Why are we waiting on you? Because right now we can't. Daniel, what's the final note?
Yeah, I don't really, there's not really a whole lot to add. I mean, what is happening that we haven't already talked about for years that was going to happen? I would say this is just another reason that we're a much more trustworthy source of news than the React channels on TV. They say stuff like, hey, maybe the Malaysian air flight got lost because of miniature black holes on air, as if they're real news people and not just a reaction channel. And we, in Converse, years ago go, with the increase of the science of all this climate change and the hurricanes, here's what we expect to happen in the movement of people and the flooding. Turns out we were right, not because we were especially clever, but we didn't have an agenda, and we just read the reports in front of us and said, okay, this is where it's heading.